taking care of a Sniper EFI system on this Galaxie 500. It is a 1965 with a 4-390 under the hood, as you are staring at right now. I've already taken the liberty of removing the carburetor. It's sitting over there. And I went in and started moving some stuff around. So let's review what I have done. EFI is obviously installed. Took care of transferring over the pivot ball for the throttle linkage. I do have to put the kick down on. We'll have to see what the best way to configure that is, because on the OEM it sits here, and according to the instructions it's supposed to connect down on the bottom here. According to the EFI Sniper system, it's supposed to be connected down there. So this is the OE fuel line here. This is the dash sender for the temperature sensor. This thing was actually sitting there, but the instructions from Holley say do not use anything that's on a thermostat. So obviously we have a thermostat here. I just swapped places, so this is the one that actually goes to our computer now. So no big deal. The one on the dash isn't going to really be a big deal, since the Sniper system is going to read a digital temperature out, which is much more reliable than just a needle moving back and forth on the dash. Now on the back side, I had to extend to a longer hose for this. This is just going to the front on the previous unit. So this is our vacuum advance. There's a port dedicated for that in the back. We had a vacuum tree right here. I eliminated that, plugged it, and we now have the transmission running into a vacuum on the back side. We also have our brake booster connected into the back. Preparing our fuel system here, I have our fuel pump, post filter, pre-filter, in this order is how they want it. Flow go in this direction. We got a couple of these connectors so we can add a return line. This system does not have a return line on it, so we're going to have to add it. For some reason they gave me 3 of these barbed connectors, and then I don't know why they gave me 2 bulkhead nuts. I think maybe it got mixed up, because I'm supposed to have 4 of these, I'm pretty sure. So this guy needs to go into the tank so we can have a return line. I'll need to figure out a position for this as well. But I have something interesting to show. Now it does say in the instructions that we should run that bulkhead connector to the sender unit. Well, the sender and the fuel outlet both come from the same spot, which is this right here. And as you'll see, there is an interesting choice of grounding right there with the ground attached to that worm gear. So I'm gonna pull out this assembly, and I'm going to see if I can find enough room to drill an inlet in there for the return. So I managed to drain out a whole 6 or so gallons out of the fuel tank, and then I got the sender unit out. So he had said there was a problem with the sender unit, or that there was a problem on the gauge. So it looked like this thing was actually in there crooked, which would explain a lot, because this thing has to go in exactly like this. So I drew an arrow for future reference, because there's no other indicators on this thing. Now, we need to make room to install that guy. And I saw online someone else had a problem with the nut fitting. So it looks like my only valid position is about right here, at the tip of where that 2 is. The issue on this side is that there's a bracket, but the bracket seems a little extra. We don't really need all of that bracketry, so I'm gonna probably cut half of this bracket off, and then I'm going to drill through there so we can run that there. And then I'm going to do some evaluation on if I want to use that as the send or the return, based on which one goes lower into the tank. All right, we are modified. So as I stated, drilled it in right there, and then I bent that thing out of the way after cutting it, that little bracket piece. And it looks like the length of the tube included is just a little bit shorter, so we will use this as the return line, and we'll use that one as the send. This is ready to go back in. So as stated, we took care of getting that line over there, got the line running over. I've eliminated the hard line, run over here. I got more P-clips coming. We're gonna take care of securing that. So I have installed successfully 3 riv nuts. I wanted to install another one here, but this just was in the way. I managed to get that one because I could get over the top. So 3 riv nuts here. I'm gonna put the pump right there. I have my send line going up in the engine bay right there. This is the assembly I've created. So it's 2 pieces. Again, waiting on P-clips for these, but this will P-clip into this bracket here. And then we got the 3 riv nuts, 1, 2, or they'll go to the 3 riv nuts, 1, 2, 3. You'll be able to install this guy up under the body. And then this is a shield, which riv nuts hold it together. So then when we go into the car, this, ta-da, and then it is protected. Because what I don't want is to have an exposed fuel pump under the car. Now, the return line, I went ahead and ran it down the passenger side. We're just gonna run this here. I'll put some anti-chafe stuff there to stop that from getting damaged here. Or again, P-clips, runs up, and then to that other fitting. So up here on the top side again, I'm gonna replace out these terminals because I don't like how stacked all of these grounds have become, and this positive's kind of poor. I have some fancy terminals I'll stick on here. You'll see those in a second. So we got a whole bunch of just stringy wires just wrapped around things here, and like a butt connector in the middle of a wire, I don't know. So I'm gonna clean some of this stuff up. Since we're going to be adding a couple of extra wires, I don't want this to look any more spaghetti than it needs to. So we'll take care of that. Also, I did notice the customer has okay tension on this one, a bit low of tension on this one, and extremely low tension on this one. So we're going to retension all of those. I have refilled the coolant, took like 2.5 gallons into there. You'll see I have both of my fuel lines in here. So this is the send that's coming in this way. As long as you connect to this one or this one, it's fine. For the send side, and then the return side is off of here. So you see a little regulator back here, and then this guy goes off to that side. I'll show you the underside. Just took care of doing a lot of rewiring over here. Put on these terminals so that we can just run all the wires directly into them. Takes care of a lot of the spaghetti that was going on here. There's a lot of stuff that was stacked onto these various posts when they could have just been run straight to the battery terminals. There's no reason to run this to here and then daisy chain everything off of that. I may still replace this one and run it over to here as well, because again, there's no real reason. This is running off of the positive terminal. Well, why not just run it straight to the battery? I almost forgot, these terminals come with little plastic covers. Look how nice that is. Now nothing can accidentally arc off of them. Okay, I've started in with the main harness connector. This guy right here, ran it over back here. We're gonna finalize all these wires over in this area, but for now, went ahead and got these wires all cleaned up over here. Used a lot of zip ties. So it had me directly connect into the power and then the ground off of the battery, and then one off of the ignition power on. So that's this guy. And well, we had one before running to the distributor, to the carburetor choke. So since that one's no longer here, I just ran that off of here. So we're gonna secure these down later. We are not using on this setup because we have a 2-wire on the distributor coil. So it wants me to run off of that for the tach signal. So I extended the wire yellow and it goes over to there. We're not using this because we are not using a crank signal. So for later, if the customer wants, we can install that pretty easily. Then it did not give a negative in the harness for the fuel pump. So we went ahead and threw one in here. Okay, I popped it off of here, runs it over there. It's running along with this blue wire. So we have the blue wire, which is part of the harness for the fuel pump turn on, and then the black one will go with it, and then that one's gonna run down there. Then I just did a bunch of zip tying here and there just to clean things up. It appears, based on the reading, that this is the expansion harness. You can expand onto other components, other sensors, and there's one programmable switchable thing. He has an aftermarket AC system, so I think we'll just leave that as is. It's already running effectively an analog system that doesn't require any interaction from the engine, so probably won't do anything with that unless I absolutely need to. I've pulled my power and my ground wire down for the fuel pump. We're gonna mount that up here in just a moment. I have my fuel line now secured. I went ahead and got the rest of those P-clips in here. And then I took the wheels off and I ran up there and secured them with P-clips there as well. And on the passenger side as well. There we go. Nice and secure the whole way to the front. I managed to figure out that I could put this one here and it actually avoids any chafing. And then we just need to secure that up in the engine bay. Mounted up the fuel pump and the assembly and everything. The P-clip idea didn't work like I had hoped. The P-clips were a little more offsetting than I needed them to be. This needs to be pretty much, yeah, it's up against there. So I ended up using the D-shaped clips that came with it. These actually work really well. They're really secured. I will need to cut the rest of these bolts off to make them nice flush. Those obviously don't need to be hanging down. End up using some zip ties here to hold this to the contour of the body, and P-clip there and there so we don't kink anything. And then I sleeved my line, my wires. I got the other fuel line hooked up. Wiring completed. Crimped and soldered terminals, just to be absolutely sure. And then heat shrink, of course. I moved the loom down and then I pulled it up to the top. So we're gonna leave the slack up in the engine bay. So for future serviceability, this can be dropped down with the slack on the line. I'm still gonna put some rubber under these filters. But let's see how this thing looks with our cover. And here it is. It is open at the front and rear, but we'll consider it negligible. compared to the protection that the pump actually gets, because the pump is in the center section. Getting around to doing the O2 sensor now. So I have decided, or so it was decided for me, that we're going to do the clamp-on method. I'm not really fond of this. I'd really hoped we could weld something on, but someone tell me if I'm onto something here or if I'm just on something. Every single old school car that's coming to my shop must go to the same exact exhaust shop because they get a one-piece exhaust. There are no disconnect joints here except for right up there. I took those nuts out. This exhaust can only come down less than 1 inch because it immediately hits the gas tank, which is way back there. But again, the exhaust is one solid welded piece. I'm serious. Over a dozen of these older cars have come into my shop, and every single one of them has this exact style exhaust, just one piece. Well, either way, more to the point. So from the top, I used my right angle drill and I drilled that out 3/4 inch hole. And now we're going to clamp this thing on. Topside view, the O2 sensor has been installed and clamped down. Seems the clamps are designed for everything down to exactly the size of pipe we have here, because that's a lot of extra studs sticking out. All right, I've already connected it right here. We're gonna hop into the car and see about the initial programming for this. I went ahead and secured these guys down over here, the fuse and the relay. I'll do something with this wire in a bit. I went ahead and connected the SD card over to the computer, and I downloaded the software, and it automatically updated all the software on there. So we're currently in the process of doing a firmware upgrade, and oh, now it wants me to reboot the device. So I'm gonna run through this real quick and then we'll go through setting it up. Okay, there's nothing really to see on the screen, but we set this up to be an 8-cylinder 390 with the appropriate model number for the EFI system we've installed. I set the idle right off the bat to be 600 RPM, and I set the red line for 5,500 for now. Okay, I've already primed the fuel system, so what you'll notice is first startup, you're gonna hear your pump make a lot of noise because it's empty. So you're gonna wanna let it cycle and then turn it back off and then do it again without starting the car just a couple times until the pump sounds like it is going under load, which this one will sound like. All right, so the fuel system's now primed. This thing's gonna turn on. We're gonna put this over into the tuning mode. So we're just gonna put it into basic, closed loop learn. We're gonna fire it up.